Welcome back to Taxation is Theft, the show that talks about all the ways the government is ripping you off, broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube from an underground bunker somewhere deep in the jungles of Mexico. I'm Dan, Taxationist Theft Berman, former candidate for President of the United States, currently candidate for Governor of Texas. And today I have my good friend Em Hale with me. He is an amazing friend, an amazing libertarian, and an amazing candidate running an awesome race right now. We're going to hear all about that. We're going to hear about a lot of some really interesting things like hemp and nuclear waste and how they're related. Do you know? We'll find out. Before we get started, of course, I want to take a quick minute to ask for your support. Head on over to taxationistheft.cards. Make sure you get one of these really fancy hats or a flag. I forgot. Hold on. Let me put my flag in. I know if you're listening to the podcast, you can't even see the flag, but there's a flag back here. So if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook with video, you can see the flag part of it. And we have all kinds of other really cool merch there. Everything you buy, all of the profit goes to an evil, greedy corporation, namely me, who uses that money as a counter-propaganda campaign to rid the world of taxes and the IRS. So please make sure to head over there and give us your support. And on to the show. Kevin, welcome. How's it going?
Good, sir. How are you?
Doing awesome. Oh, there you go. We got
there you
matching
go.
hats. Put it on, man.
I wore this tie just so I'd match.
That's awesome. God, I love those colors. My favorite color used to be
They
red.
are good colors, man. Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow.
Exactly. And then I was like, I saw this interesting meme. It was like, it said something to the effect of, I bet when the first person asked what someone else's favorite color was, it was an extremely deep philosophical question. Like, why is that your favorite color? And today it's just like something we take for granted. But yeah, my favorite color used to be red. I think because I just like sports cars, and the red ones always look the best. But now that colors actually have meaning to me, yellow, black and yellow. That's my
voluntarism.
My colors.
Voluntarism.
Voluntarism. Well, let's start there. Before we jump into all the
Cool.
stuff that I teased everybody with. Let me get your opinion on this, because I was fighting with someone on the internets.
Imagine that on the interwebs.
So there was a poll, and it said, just a quick survey: who's out there with what ideologies, and the list was like anarcho-communism, anarcho-capitalism, anarcho-this, anarcho-that, statism, Republican, conservative, everything. And I said, you forgot to put voluntarism on the list. And a lot of people said, but voluntarism and ANCAP is the same. Synonymous.
Might be synonymous.
I said no.
You don't think so?
Honestly, well, I want to say anarchy is synonymous with voluntarism, but it's not really. Because you can have anarchy and not have voluntary, like you can have anarchy and coercion.
Yeah.
Just not with like rulers.
Right.
But what bugs me about capitalism, using the word and capitalism, is one, first of all, it's and I talk about this all the time, how language sucks, and like if I say one word, I mean one thing, and like you can hear it and be like, oh, he's talking about something completely different.
Right.
So there's that, and capitalism is like a terrible word for that. But also, like, it seems like capitalism is just like what you would do under anarchism. So like when I see libertarian socialists or like anarcho-communists, like they're like, well, why are you an anarcho-communist? Well, there would be no government, there would be no rulers, but we'd all live in a commune and blah, 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 blah. And with anarcho-capitalism, it's like, okay, so there would be no rulers, there would be no tyrants, and we'd all run around trading money because that's what incentivizes us. And it seems like the anarcho part is the same in both, but the capitalism part is, capitalism almost kind of describes to me a motivation more than a system.
Right, because the motivation is the profit.
Right. Whereas I might say, oh, my motivation is not profit. My motivation is to like save the starving children in, wherever. And so I have a different motivation. I have, but at the same time, if neither one of us are coercively trying to steal from other people, then it's still anarchy. But it's voluntarism.
Right. Yeah, because that's where it becomes voluntarism, because we haven't forced our way onto anything. Everybody enters into the relationship or exchange voluntarily.
Right.
Well, I was on a Lyft ride back when my car was broke down, and the Lyft driver happened to be a cop, and we're talking about the war on drugs. And he was talking about, well, all these exchanges, illegal exchanges for the product. And I was like, oh, you mean the free market exchange of value? All they're doing is capitalism. You're mad at them for exchanging something of value for another thing of value. That's not illegal. I said, why don't you guys concentrate on crimes with victims like theft, fraud, assault, rape, and murder? Let's work on those 5 things, and then come talk to me later about the drug war. Let's work on those 5 things.
How do you respond to that?
He I'll tell you what he did. 2 weeks later, I got his same name, Dakota, on my Lyft ride, and he never showed up. So I think I kind of put him in his place. I said, and we were also talking about the Dallas DA had said they were not going to charge for petty theft of less than $750. And I told him that I disagreed with that, because in theft, you actually create a victim, whether that be the store or an individual. And he said, we actually had a case of that in Louisville, which is not Dallas County. And we had to take the lady to jail because she thought she could get away with stealing essentials under $750. So they took her to jail. I'm like, we're sending the wrong message about our criminal justice system. The DA basically just told everybody it's okay to steal $750 if it's essential, whatever that might be in your definition. So it's crazy that, finally they did kind of decriminalize marijuana here in Dallas County. They just give you a ticket and you have to show up in court for that later. But it's the whole thing, and look at this Breonna Taylor thing. They sort of did a no-knock raid. They did knock and announce themselves. But still, though, why can't we just knock on the door and ask somebody to come out politely?
Right.
Well,
and that's the whole thing, like the history of the drug wars, that, it's like, well, hey, we'd rather kill all these people than give them a few extra minutes to flush their stash down the toilet, because that's what's really important to us.
Right. Right.
I mean, it's absolutely insane, but it's like, at the same time, you have these hero cops who think they're really out there, and I think a lot of it has to do with like the lingering propaganda from like, Reefer Madness, where
that's what I was just about to say. Reefer Madness hangs on.
Like these people, like they really do think that like drugs are the cancer of the world that are like out there killing people. And it's like, yeah, there's a few people who fall into that trap, but there are the same people. Like if it's not drugs, it's an addiction to cigarettes or alcohol or sex or gambling or, it could be anything. It could be like Chuck E. Cheese. You could have a Chuck E. Cheese addiction, which, you go and you spend your kid's entire tuition like going into the machines and like somehow like I can get enough tickets this time. I know I can. Yeah.
Let's play skeet ball. Yeah, you're right exactly about that. It's
they don't see it. But you said something about like seeing things I don't know. I'm totally,
let's take a look at what I like to do when I get up against somebody like that is I say, let's take the approach Portugal took and look at the results they got. In Portugal, if you're caught with what they consider a 10-day supply, you have to go in front of a judge, a doctor, and a psychiatrist. The judge, if he figures out that you're working nefariously, can assign a fine and put you in prison. But the other two that are there, the doctor can prescribe you medicines to get you off of the drugs, and the psychiatrist can talk to you about why you're using. Guess what? They have the lowest death by overdose rate in the entire world. And the crime surrounding the drug war disappeared.
Right.
It's a far more empathetic approach, and it's working. It's working.
Yeah. my only thing with that is when you talk to people, I feel like they're just like, well, who the hell are you, and how do you know so much about it? You've never been to Portugal. Like, what do you know? Right? And so they're just kind of like, okay, there was this guy, we were talking about home ownership, and I was like, man, like because of the government, everybody's renting and nobody owns homes. And so I was just sitting there like, I wonder, like, I've never looked at these statistics before. I was like, I wonder what percentage of Americans own homes, and then I want to compare it to other countries. So I did a quick Google search, and of course Wikipedia comes up first. And at the bottom of the page, it has like links to all the government sites where the statistics came from. But like, I'm not going to go to all those sites like myself when it's already right there in a nicely organized chart. So I send the Wikipedia page into this fight thread that we were having on Facebook. And this guy, because he was very, very far left, trying to argue for a UBI and some other shit. He says, "Oh, yeah, wonderful. You're posting Wikipedia as a source. Yeah, wonderful, genius." And it's like, even though it's got all these links to all the government sites, and you know how much they love government information.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Like, it's Wikipedia, so it's bad, it's wrong. And it's like, it's like a confirmation bias. It's like, I'm going to reject the information that you gave me because it doesn't conform to my view of
dude, I get that from the left far more than I do from the right. I find that the right is actually a little bit more able to listen to us, but the left, man, they just shut down. They really literally just shut you down and will not accept any new information that contradicts them, or at least how they believe or feel,
right,
versus the reality of objective evidence, So that's a hard fight with the left right now, especially since they're hypersensitive in this orange man hate, the mango hate man. And I feel like they're blindly driven by this emotion of fear and hate, and they're not even seeing the policies that their own people put in place.
Right.
And I call them out on that. And I'm like, come on, literally the two people you just nominated for the highest offices in the land are the exact opposite of what you're bitching about. The reason we have protests are because of those kind of people. Biden wrote the law. Trump administered it. Kamala Harris leveraged it. And it's like, you're perpetuating the problem here.
Yeah.
And they don't want to see it that way because it's their team, and the orange man hate is so strong, and it's not going to be enough. Right. I think the orange man's going to win.
Well, I think at the same time,
I hope that we get 5%, but
right. I think at the same time, it's not like a lot of people like to look at the left and blame them.
Yeah.
But like, what I like to do is I like to say, I don't like to blame them. I like to say, look, I get it, because ultimately, like, it's not us against them.
No,
it's
we're on the same
us
side.
It's us against the politicians, and the politicians are controlling them with fear and false information and false narratives and media. They're manipulating their minds in a very scientifically calculated way.
Yep.
And so yeah, and I know it's difficult because our emotions and irrational minds get into it like all the time also. But it's like, that's something I always emphasize, is we have to like really stay on track of what's going on. But I also think I think a lot of libertarians. This is where I part ways with a lot of libertarians. Is I say, but you can't win them over with logic. You have to fight fire with fire. You have to understand that the fear and manipulation that is being used to control most of the American voters. We have to tap into that. And we don't have to do it maliciously, right? We don't have to lie and create these false narratives and go hate these people and that sort of thing. Really, all we need to do is just tap into the emotion sides and if fear is controlling them, make them feel safe.
Yeah.
Like do the opposite of what the controlling propaganda is doing.
Okay. So how would you go about making them feel safe for voting for us libertarians?
Well,
how do you go about doing that?
I think one is you have to give them realistic policies that would make them okay. Here's one. This is one that I use a lot because it works really well. The people on the left usually want healthcare to change, right?
Yes.
To whatever, and it doesn't matter what it changes to, right? Because they bought into Obamacare, but they have this fear. The fear. Let's look at the fear first. The fear is that I'm going to get sick and I'm not going to be able to afford healthcare and I'm going to die because I'm poor.
Right.
That's the fear. The solution is, okay, there might be a few different solutions out there, but whatever it is, it's going to come from government because corporations are too greedy. So that's the only solution that's on the table. But now if you offer them a different solution and say, hey, look, I get it. You're scared, right? You're scared you're going to get sick and die. But let me show you a way that we can take care of you, right? And you show them look, and then you point out, this is my example that I always use, is the FDA with the insulin, right? Insulin is manufactured in the United States for something like $3. It's sold for $100. It's exported to Mexico, and if you cross the border to Mexico, you can buy it for $12. But it's illegal for you to buy it in Mexico and have your friend ship it back to you in the United States so you could get it for $12. If you actually want it for $12, you have to go across the border yourself, buy it in small quantities, and go through all this other bullshit. Why? Because of the FDA. Why can't you just buy it for $12 in the United States? Yes, it's greedy corporations jacking up their price, but the only reason they're able to do that is because there are only 3 companies that can sell in the U.S., and there are 47 companies that make it worldwide. If any of those other companies could tap into the U.S. market, they're manufacturing it for $3. The same stuff. They're not protecting you from quality control because you can't even buy the stuff that was manufactured in the United States from another country. It's not about that. And so I guess it's a combination of the emotional side where you're like, look, this will make you safe. This will solve your problem, your fear. At the same time, it's factual information that they can't deny. Because you can always deny emotions, right? You can always say, you can deny opinions, but you can't really deny facts. You can ignore facts, but you can't deny facts.
Exactly. What I like to use when I'm talking about healthcare is, and I like to say it's a consumer-driven market. What I'm wanting is a consumer-driven market. And I give them 2 examples of that working right now. The Surgery Center of Oklahoma City, who puts their pricing online. And I say, what I tell people to do, I said, if you have one of these surgeries that they offer, you should use their pricing to negotiate with your insurance and hospital. So that's number 1. And number 2 is the DPC healthcare, which is a direct primary care healthcare system that's in Fort Worth. And it's a membership model in which you pay into a membership to these set of doctors, and then you get free access to them 24/7. And I always point to those 2 models and say, those are free market solutions in healthcare that are working to lower cost, and their pricing is online. So that's the first thing we need to do with healthcare. If you really want to fix healthcare, pricing up front. That fixes almost all these issues of not being able to afford insurance and everything else.
Well, I think So, okay, I just want to point this out. You're definitely not wrong. But when a lefty hears things like free market and I think even consumer, those are bad words. Like those are dirty
That's why I
words,
try
man.
to use consumer-driven market,
I
because
think even that
everybody's
might
a
be,
consumer.
but ultimately, like keep it super, because some people will be interested in those details. But at the end of the day, like even me, like my eyes kind of glazed over there. But
Well, thanks for your honesty.
but but that's just because it's complicated, and it's like, hold on, let me picture all the pieces in my head and make sure this is going to work. And for people, the let's just call them the low information voters, they're not going to be able to piece that all together. But if you simplify it down to, we're going to get lower prices, you could even say we're going to force the market into lower pricing, which
There you go.
you're not pointing a gun at anybody really. You're just allowing free competition, fair market. Fair market was a good word that I heard.
Fair market. There you go.
But all they hear is like, yeah, we're gonna force the prices down, and they hear that and they're like, oh, okay, that sounds great. Yeah, they're gonna come in with the force of government and force the prices down, and like they're like, yeah, we're gonna get what we want. Yeah, revolution, right? Like Che Guevara.
Right.
Like
That's a good point. I might start using that a little bit more. We're gonna force healthcare prices down.
But then when you go to the libertarians, they're gonna be like, oh, he said force. Like just using that word. And then people on the right, they might hear it and be like, okay, that sounds good, but who's gonna pay for it? You're gonna raise taxes, aren't you? So like there's always that. And like that's and this is what's interesting, because we always talk about the division of voters, and it's like and this is done intentionally, but you've got half of the country, you've got the entire country divided in half, where if you say a word to the entire country, half will hate you, the other half will love you. And if you say a different word, you'll get the reverse.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's almost like you have to like isolate yourself and talk to the separate halves separately. And what might be really interesting, like so let's say we've got Joe and Spike. What would be really interesting if one of them was talking to the left and the other one was talking to the right.
Yeah, exactly. Send Joe to the right and send Spike to the left.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
That's how you do that. Because Spike's ability to communicate our message to the left is off the charts. He's so good at that. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of jealous of his ability to do that. And the way that Joe pulls off what she pulls off is conservative in her nature. So I think that messaging would be clearer heard in a Republican or right setting.
Right.
Yeah, but just because of the way she, gives herself to us, she isn't as outlandish as Spike is, or flamboyant. She's more conservative.
Right.
Which is great. I think the balance on the ticket is awesome. I was a Mons guy all the way through, but I think the delegation got it right. So kudos to you, delegation.
So, okay, let's talk about this. You released a new video today.
Yes, I did. I did release a new video.
Can we play it?
Maybe.
Let me see. Can I?
It's on my Facebook page. The second video down.
I'm gonna pull that up.
All right, cool.
While we're pulling that up, give us a little. Well, how long is it?
I think it's 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay.
It's not very long at all.
That's pretty short. Corruption is legal. Is this one?
No, it's the hemp one.
Oh, here we go.
Yep.
Yeah. State of the Planet. 2.5 minutes. Yeah, let's play this.
Yeah.
How do I? That's gonna go.
So here's what I want. Right now, the hemp industry just became legal, as you know, in the Farm Bill. The same Farm Bill that also prevented Congress from talking about ending the wars. That Farm Bill made hemp legal. So over the last year or so, they sent this mandate down to the state legislators to create regulations and licensing laws and stuff like that for this industry. I'm against that. Licensing laws, I think everybody should have an equal opportunity to to join the hemp revolution that's about to take place. And one of the ways that they're already picking the winners are these licensing laws and regulations. Right. And I don't want that to happen with hemp, because hemp can literally help our planet, and it changes almost every industry that you know, from paper, plastics, textiles, fuel, nuclear cleanup, lead cleanup, all kinds of benefits. It has every single amino acid your body needs, so you can eat hemp and get what your body needs, and not get high, because hemp is different from cannabis.
Right.
So because
I realize, like, I shouldn't say this. I'm at work wearing this T-shirt. For those on the podcast, it's a shirt I got in Jamaica. It says Jamaica brand, and it's got a big hemp leaf on it, not a cannabis leaf. And I was thinking, like, is this inappropriate to be wearing at work? I mean, it's all on Zoom calls and everything, but is it inappropriate? I don't know. I had to think about that for a minute, but then I was like, how do they know this isn't hemp? And I'm just like, I just want to clean up the environment.
Exactly. Is that a hemp T-shirt? Do you know?
I don't know.
Check the tag whenever you go put it in the laundry. Check the tag.
Probably not. It was probably made.
Probably not. It is popular. Hemp is popular as a textile in other countries because they've been ahead of the curve. Right. Because it's been illegal for 70 years in the United States.
Well, it was big as a textile even before. Like, I mean, like way before. I mean, it was used during, like, the government was subsidizing in World War II to make ropes and clothes and everything.
Our $10 bill used to have a picture of people farming hemp.
Oh, I need to get one of those. Where's Mark Tanzer? I'm going to call him up and get one. I bet he has one.
I'm sure that they have one. But no. And hemp, the Declaration of Independence written on hemp. The Constitution written on hemp. So,
okay. I think I got this rigged up. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try to play this. You might not hear it.
That's okay. I've heard it.
But you've heard it before. Oops. Oh, okay. No, I thought I screwed something. Okay, let's see if this works.
We could also help by using hemp. Hemp for plastics, hemp for paper, hemp for textiles, for clothing, hemp for concrete, hemp for medicinal uses, hemp for lotions, everything for hemp. Hemp is a carbon negative product as well. So we can pull the carbon that we've already released out of the air and get back to a green earth. And we don't have to destroy forest anymore. And it took 30 years to have those trees. You could do the same amount of pulp with 1 acre of hemp. It's renewable. It uses less water than cotton, and it had no pesticides. It just now became legal. And in order to grow it in Texas, guess what? You gotta have a license. They're already deciding who the winners and losers are. That's not right. If you want to participate in the hemp industry, which is about to explode, you should be able to do that without having a license. I want you to participate. I want to grow a green hemp industry. We can use it for biofuel and diesel, both. You can use it for both. You can use it for paper. Just think if we just used it for toilet paper. You save the rainforest. You save the rainforest if we just switch to hemp toilet paper. We don't have to tear up our forest. We don't have to strip the land of its nutrients, because here's another benefit of hemp. I bet you didn't know this. It can also take heavy metals and nuclear waste out of the soil. You can literally go to Russia, plant it, it'll pull up all the nuclear waste, all the heavy metals, and you can then take care of that. You can replenish your earth. This plant is awesome. Plastic that biodegrades in 80 days. You worried about the straws in the ocean? Hemp plastic, it biodegrades in 80 days. Not a problem. versus never. We've been going about this all wrong. We can also help by going using.
It's looping. I couldn't get it to play. Now it wants to play again.
Keeps repeating.
That's really awesome. So, aside from wanting to know who the girl with the coconut is, there was a headline that actually said Chernobyl was fixed by hemp. Is that is that real? Did they really plant hemp there?
I think so. I'll have to. My editor and producer said he went and checked everything that I said. He says, "You're the first guy I've ever checked that everything you said was on point."
Wow.
So I'll Google search that and make sure. But yeah, they've been using hemp to. It takes out heavy metals like lead and stuff. Like if you have say you have a field that's been poisoned by lead, if you throw some hemp seed out there, you might be able to pull some of that lead out and make that land usable again. So here's another way to save our planet with the plant that was given to us by God. It does so many things. There's also, I didn't get to talk about this, but there's a shortage of sand in the world because of all the concrete jungles that we're building, right? We've been using sand to do the concrete. If we started using hemp, we would save the earth's sand and let the oceans reproduce the sand that we need. So we already have a shortage of sand. So there's another way that we can save our planet and reproduce some sand because we actually have a shortage of sand in the world because of the concrete planet that we're building. We can do that with hemp though. And hemp concrete is 100% carbon negative. Anything that we grow and we produce to put in concrete, it's carbon that was taken out of the atmosphere and locked away for at least 100 years. And you don't need any pesticides and it's fire resistant.
I'm just I'm Googling this not because I don't trust you, because that just blows my mind. There is a sand shortage. Yep. The world is why the world is running out of sand. That's insane.
There you go. This rabbit hole, this is what happened to me. I started doing research on hemp because I wanted to know what we could do with it. And it just turned into a rabbit hole of fortunes. Look at every industry that it touches. You can make hemp batteries that are more efficient than lithium. Hemp batteries are more efficient than lithium. We could have hemp battery cars. How cool would that be? Or hemp fuel cars or hemp fueled trucks.
It's amazing. And I mean, there's so many things.
Textiles, bedding, clothing, shoes, anything having to do rope, parachutes. George Bush was saved by a hemp parachute.
You've talked about. Okay, so this requires a license, right? Do you happen to know how much the license fees are?
I do not, but the fact that they already have a process for you to be licensed is my problem.
Right.
I think as a farmer, you should be able to grow hemp because it's your farm, and you know that it's a cash crop.
Here's the thing, people grow weed in their homes, right? You could grow hemp in your backyard, just like you grow tomatoes, and the average person is not going to have probably the wherewithal to take that and process that and make their own clothes and that sort of thing. But you might have people save their cans and they take them in to be recycled. Why couldn't you grow your hemp and take them in to be, give it to somebody and they give you cash, so that they don't have to farm it. You could just grow it at home or whatever. Because it grows like weeds, literally.
Yeah. And it less water than cotton and zero pesticides. It's pest resistant.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. I'm trying to look up what the fee is right now your point is also valid, that just the fact that they have a process is dangerous, because they might say, oh, it's only a $5 fee, or even $5 per 100 acres or something, right?
No, it's more than that.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's probably millions. But even if it was infinitely small, like that doesn't matter because they can still change it tomorrow once the thing's already in there, and nobody like when they create something like a tax or a license or a fee. That's a big change because that requires setting up a new office. That
Yep.
requires, like, oh, you're now what you're doing has become legal or not. Like all these things change. But once that's in place, it's very easy for them to change the cost of the license without anybody paying attention or caring.
Exactly.
That's what's
And
really
what that
dangerous.
does is it prevents other people from participating in the market.
Right.
You know,
Ultimately, yeah, yeah.
and that's what's same thing with cosmetology. People that want to braid hair for a living have to go to 1,500 hours of training, but you only need 750 hours to be a cop.
Yeah.
Shouldn't that be opposite? If there was going to be a law in the first place, shouldn't it be opposite?
Yeah.
I mean, just saying. Which is on
Wow.
my free market.
Wait. Hold on. I'm like reading through. I'm trying to find out how much this license is, and like I'm finding some even weirder shit in here. What will the cost of the license be per the state statute? The license is $100, and the lot permits participation fees are $100 per lot, regardless of size. But does that mean like, because you know how they say like, oh, that's 2 lots? Because
Yeah,
like,
if you have a 100-acre farm, is that 300 lots?
yeah, right.
Exactly.
Okay, but then this like, and maybe this is an abbreviation for something else, but it says the cost to modify the GPS locations of a registered facility is $500.
So if you move it across if you move it from the back of the farm to the front of the farm.
But what? Okay, here. What will be included in the application? Street address and GPS locations for each facility where the hemp will be produced or so yeah. So you're like you have like your little what do they call it? A silo, right? Where you're sticking all this stuff, and you're like, yeah, you know what? We're gonna move this over here. That is.
Or if you have a greenhouse that you grow the premium hemp for specific use, if you move that greenhouse to the front of the lot, do you have to change its GPS location?
That is like
yeah, it's just over regulation.
It's an ankle bracelet for your potatoes. Like,
it's exactly what it is.
Oh.
And that's what I'm talking about. That's government interference in the marketplace. Who are they to decide where I put my hemp?
Right. Yeah. Next thing you know, they're going to say, "Oh, we want you to stick a surveillance camera on it that we have access to."
Yeah.
Times.
Yep. And they get to come in and test it anytime they want. And guess what? Hemp, once it gets over like 6 or 7 feet, will test for more than 3% THC. So you gotta get your crop just right, so you're not breaking any laws and growing cannabis.
Okay, this is what's weird about that though, because okay, there's there's a million ways to measure, right? So like, let's say you have a little tiny speck of THC oil and it's 100% THC. But then you drop it in this bottle of water and you shake it up, and now it's like 0.01% because it's been diluted, right? So I would think as the plant gets bigger, you might have some parts that grow that are more dense, but if you throw the entire plant into a blender, it's going to break down to some percentage. But maybe that's not how they're measuring it.
Right.
But like maybe they're taking some fibers and they're measuring what's the percentage of that fiber, something, I don't know. But
or from the flower.
Right, but this is what's really weird about that, because that is attempting to what would you call it? Like, what's the opposite of dilute? You're attempting to do the opposite of that, so you can find a concentration, so that you can say it's higher than 3%. But at the same time, you remember that guy who got arrested and charged in, I want to say Austin or Dallas, for making pot brownies? And he had like it was like, the Mexican dirt weed, like smashed into a cube. But gross. Here's the thing. It was a small amount of it, but they made it a felony because it was already mixed in with the brownie mix. And so even though it was diluted into the bigger mix, they weighed the entire mix to say, well, this is 2 pounds of manufactured cannabis, even though it came from like $60 worth of like shit weed. So it's like they're going to like whatever dilution is, whatever the science is, they're going to use a different measure for a different application to screw somebody in whatever way they can.
Yeah. And those pot brownies created 0 victims, I'm sure of it.
Oh, I'm absolutely sure. The cops probably took them home and ate them.
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt that at all.
Bastards.
Yeah, so that's what, that I'm bringing hemp up as an example of, here's an industry that's just emerging in the US. Let's try a free market, consumer-driven approach and see how quickly we can ramp this up. Because regulating it, licensing it is only picking the winners and keeping everybody else out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm railing on when I'm talking about hemp. I'm saying, here's a product that we can jump on board with pretty quickly. I think the turnaround is like 5 months, so you can almost get 3 crops in a year, especially in Texas, because it's so warm throughout. You could definitely get, 2 good solid hemp crops, which is great for my rural district. I have 6 rural counties that I'm trying to represent. And if I can give them a cash crop to grow without a licensing fee, that's all good for them, right? So that's what I'm trying to, it's hemp jobs are going to be the future.
Yeah, that's, man. So you're running for U.S. Congress?
U.S. Congress, federal level, seat 5, Republican incumbent. It's been a Republican incumbent since 1994, thanks to the gerrymandering. I know exactly how many votes he will get. I know pretty much exactly how many votes the Democrat will get, and my hope is to get 40,000 votes, cover the gap, and make a statement about free markets, and push our candidate, the incumbent, to sign on to the Federal Sunset Act, which is the House Bill 39, which has exactly 0 co-sponsors, which would create a commission to sunset some of the federal agencies that are redundant, old, outdated, or just need to go away. So there's a tool that Congress can create for themselves, the Federal Sunset Act, a commission, but 0 co-sponsors. So Republicans talk about making the government smaller, but the proof is in the pudding. You look at the omnibus bill that they passed in 2017, you look at their mute on the CARES Act, and then you realize that they have 0 co-sponsors on a bill that would actually give them a tool to make the government smaller.
Right.
So there you go. 1, 2, 3 reasons to vote Libertarian. Because I will, as minutes after I take the oath of office, I will co-sponsor the Sunset Act, and I will work tirelessly to get it passed. I will whip the floor ridiculously until it gets passed.
Well, you actually told me something that was pretty interesting about your presence on what's it called?
I side with?
Yes. I can't realize, I put so many fucking websites in my
head. Yes, I side with. So prior to this, the incumbent was at 100%. He was, everybody that had taken the test agreed with him 100%. The Democrat added her information back in February, and he immediately comes down to 67%. I added my information on May 6th, and he came, and since then, he's come down to 47%. I'm at 21%, and the Democrat is at 35%. So what has happened is I'm taking away votes from the right, because the Democrat has pretty much just stayed right where she's always been, at around 35%. And that's mostly because of the gerrymandering. I expect that kind of result When I entered my information, though, Lance came down, my incumbent. So he hasn't recovered at all since I entered the I side with results. So I think that's
you want to cover that gap. You libertarians really are troublemakers.
yes, we are. We see injustice and we speak up and we try to make noise about it until we get our way. We were right about gay marriage. We're right about the ending the war on drugs. We're correct about free markets and ending cronyism, and we're absolutely correct about ending the wars. So yeah, I'm sorry that we're 40 years ahead of the curve. It's about time you guys caught up.
Absolutely. I noticed you have like a little crawler going on back there.
I do. That is Stegosaurus. Short name is Steggy. I inherited that little monster from Risa. He is a troublemaker of honorary perspective. He doesn't like anybody, not even me, and I feed him. So I definitely want to take him to Congress with me and put him in my office. And if any of those other Congress critters get out of line, I'll just open the cage.
Nice.
And release the baby dragon, so to speak. Look, he knows we're talking about him. He's moving now. Now he's about 5 foot long. He's about 7 years old. He's quite a cool little animal, actually.
Yeah.
When he's not being an asshole. When he's not being an asshole, he's really kind of cool.
Yeah. We got a few of those living out down here in the wild.
Yeah, cool. I think that's eventually really what I should do with him. I eventually think I should put him in the wild because I think he'll be fine. He's very aggressive.
Nice. Well, so, man, what else is on your platform?
Okay, so my 4 main issues are ending the wars, obviously. That's number 1. We got to bring our troops home. We need to stop policing the entire world. It's not our job to police the entire world. Number 2 is ending cronyism, returning to consumer-driven markets, and paying off the debt. This debt is ridiculous, $27 trillion, and it will take no less than 3, maybe 4 generations to pay it off.
I don't think
the last 2 presidents to actually lower the debt are Silent Cal Coolidge and Harding. Those were the last 2 presidents to actually lower the debt.
It's not going to happen, man. The only way I see this debt ever going away is if the currency collapses and we switch to something else.
Yeah, and that's the other. I wouldn't mind having a little Bitcoin action going on to provide some competition.
They'd have to legalize that. I mean, that would be the thing. They'd have to legalize competition first.
Yeah, that's number 1.
But I think they know that that's like, because I mean, look, the answer is simple, right? You legalize competition, everyone switches to better currencies. The value of the dollar goes to shit, which really doesn't affect everybody as long as you have plenty. Like okay, yeah, the value of your house is going to shoot up to $500 million, and there's going to be hyperinflation, but that won't matter as long as you have other currencies that you can use, right?
Right.
So yeah, everything gets inflated to shit, and then it's like, oh, here, 1 Bitcoin, pay off the entire debt, and it's like, who cares at that point? It goes away. Yeah. That's the only way it's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I like the blockchain technology behind Bitcoin too.
Yeah,
I think we ought to use that for votes. I think we ought to leverage the blockchain technology for votes so that we can vote from our phones.
Absolutely.
I think that would be phenomenal, a push forward. The other things,
and they all and
criminal justice. Yeah, I got it. Criminal justice reform. Obviously, in the war on drugs, in no-knock raids, add de-escalation training. And here's my idea on de-escalation. If you spend an hour in the gun range, you get 2 hours of de-escalation training. Period. For every hour you're in the gun range, 2 hours of de-escalation. So there you go. I want that to happen. End qualified immunity, and I want police.
Can you pile on to that? That if you don't spend, okay, so that's fine, right? 2 hours for every hour of gun training. But if you don't spend at least like 2 hours a week with gun training, then you're not allowed to be armed on duty.
Right. So then you're 6
And
hours.
then it would be fun. Yeah, exactly.
6 hours. We'll get 6 hours of training for them, which I think they need. They haven't learned their lesson, obviously, because people are still dying. So that's what I want. I also want them to carry liability insurance, not only the police, but also the administrators that keep the bad cops on. They should be held liable too. That this is ridiculous that the cop that killed George Floyd had like 12 different complaints against him. He should have been gone a long time ago. That's on the police administrators for keeping him, in my mind.
What do you think about this? Because okay, this is my issue with the police. I mean, one of many. The police chiefs respond to one person, the mayor, right? But if you go outside of an incorporated area where you have a sheriff, the sheriff responds to nobody but his constituents. So, since we're all talking about defunding the police, can we just get rid of all of the police? And if you want to be a peacekeeper, not a law enforcer, but a peacekeeper, you go work for the sheriff's department. Because I think sheriffs do have that accountability, right? Like
yes.
A lot of police chiefs you cannot vote out. They're even appointed by the mayors.
Yeah. Or hired, yeah.
There's very little accountability there.
Yeah. That's a good idea, actually. And just have sheriffs and deputies.
Because that's, I mean, that, like if you want to talk about constitutionality, it's like the Constitution, the state constitutions even, designed the sheriff to be the executive branch, and what police are is basically private security forces for cities, but they've abstracted away that democratic process of accountability that we had that was so wonderful. Not perfect.
Which we still hold with the sheriffs. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is great. I think it's awesome, actually. That's actually a better idea than I've heard lately.
Pass that one
to leverage. Yeah, because you leverage the accountability because of the election.
Right.
I
have one other thing, because you talked about ending the wars. And would you consider yourself a history buff?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay.
You want to see my books?
Another time. We are getting close to the end of the show, so I wanted to make this a quick one. But, okay, I just saw, and laugh, I know. I just saw Saving Private Ryan for the first time.
Okay.
Like 20. It's like I'm like, Tom Hanks looks so young in this movie. And like the opening scene is like this, you know, the big 20-minute scene of like the invasion of Normandy, and like all these people are killing each other and dying and everything, and there were like a couple points of humanity within the movie where, like, you know, they were like, you know, I think it was like the Germans or the French or somebody, they're like crying like, please let me go, I didn't even want to be here. And, you know, they're afraid, they're scared little boys. I mean, they're 19, but they're scared kids that were like told, oh, you're gonna go fight for freedom. You've got people on both sides who were, you know, led there probably by propaganda, but then you have the tyrants at the top who are just like, oh yeah, we're gonna do whatever we want, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna send all these kids to die. And I saw the whole like Saving Private Ryan thing as, okay, this was a propaganda campaign. Oh, we need to show America how well we treat our troops. This poor woman, she already lost 3 sons. Meanwhile, okay, so what? Anybody else who's got 4 sons who all died in the war, like, oh, they get overlooked. Too bad. You didn't win the lottery. We're still killing hundreds of millions of these other kids. Yeah. But look how compassionate we are. But
right.
But as libertarians, we're generally anti-war. I'm going to try to... I don't even know if that's related to my question. But so we're generally anti-war, and then we look at, like, okay, how did World War II end? We dropped these massive bombs killing innocent civilians who, again, like, it killed civilians who were not... They didn't bomb Pearl Harbor. Like, right. That was ordered by a tyrant who, well, first of all, it was a response to an economic war that was started by the United States. It was an order issued by a tyrant. There were, I don't know how many thousands of Japanese who were involved in that out of millions who were not.
Yeah.
And So how do you reconcile that? Because I know some people will say like, oh yeah, but though they supported their government and they were. Do you think they cried over anybody who lost their lives in Pearl Harbor? Do you think that those innocent people? And I'm thinking like, okay, no, that's probably a good point because they were probably all propagandized too. But they weren't there. They didn't all pick up their guns and say, hey, we're going to California and we're going to invade. So how do we justify the libertarian position of being anti-war if that's the case? What would have been the appropriate response to, say, Pearl Harbor?
Well, the appropriate response to Pearl Harbor was already taken whenever we bombed them. What we did, though, is we didn't immediately go after Japan. We went after Hitler first. We were already going to go do that first. Then we came after Japan after we pretty much closed out Hitler. So it's tough to look back at history and think we could have done that better or worse, but they made decisions then that they didn't have hindsight. We would have had, according to their estimations, if we were to invade by land, we would have been there for another 3 or 4 years, just fighting it out at a cost of, I don't know. You get to drop 2 bombs. I don't like where they dropped them, obviously, but you ended the war.
Would that have even been? I mean, because you're saying instead of a land invasion, but why would a land invasion have been? Like, even if that was like, oh yeah, we'll just invade by land and do, like, even if that was easy and simple, like that wouldn't be a non-aggressive response either. I mean, we're talking about retaliation, I guess, at this point.
Right. Yeah. At that point, because we were attacked first. It's the nap on a big scale. Mm-hmm. We have a right to defend ourselves. We were attacked. We were sort of told that we were going to be attacked, mm-hmm. But we didn't actually get told we were going to be attacked.
But is that defense after they've already? Because so you have Let's say.
Here's my deal on foreign policy. If we're attacked, I'm going to defend my country. But if we're not attacking, if we haven't been attacked, why are we bombing people that didn't attack us? Right. That's my problem right now, is that we're bombing people that didn't attack the United States. We're actually giving them a reason to hate us. We're actually creating the terrorist of the future because of what we're doing. And we're doing it in a cowardly fashion by doing it with drones. We're not even man enough to go do it ourselves. We send a drone to do our dirty work. Right. How pathetic is that?
And to that one, what was I thinking the other day? Toys. Do you remember this movie Toys with Robin Williams?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was like the premise of that movie, or I mean, that wasn't the whole premise, but like that was part of it. And this was like, what was that? Probably like in the 90s. I thought that was like, I was like, wait a minute, why does this seem so familiar? And then I'm like, oh yeah, they did this in that movie.
Yep.
That's fascinating. But I guess that's all movies to some degree will predict the future because I mean. I don't know.
The Simpsons are doing a great job of doing that.
Yeah, those guys. Wow.
And the Bee, and the Babylon Bee's doing a pretty good job of that too.
Oh yeah. Oh man. All right. Well. All right. Let's wrap this show up. But
all right, cool.
Before we do, I've got your links in the comments below the video description, but go ahead and tell us what they are and where we can find you.
Yeah, the links are Give Congress Hale, HALE.com. It's also, you can find me on Facebook, Give Congress Hale. On Twitter, it's at Give Hale, or Hale Give, actually, it does it backwards. It did Hale Give. So that's where you can find me on Twitter. Right now, I've got enough brochures, flyers, and signs to get me through the end of the campaign. But what I need is about $1,500 to boost these campaign ads on social media. So that's what I'm really needing right now, is some donations to help me boost my ads in the district so that we can talk about hemp, free markets, ending the war on drugs, consumer-driven markets and fixing the criminal justice system. Thank you very much for having me on. Taxation is theft. The 16th Amendment needs to be erased. First, we'll audit the Fed, then we'll end the Fed, and then we'll get rid of the IRS, and you'll get 100% of your paycheck.
Awesome. And what are you looking for volunteers? Can anybody reach out and help?
Yes, you can volunteer. I got 2 sine waves this weekend. After that, we go back to block walking because I'll have my flyers in. But yeah, I got 2 sine waves this weekend. If you can go to my Facebook events are updated with that, and then block walking events all the way through October. We're going to be focused on Mesquite because there's enough people in Mesquite that don't vote to win the election. So there you go.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah. There's 150,000 people in Mesquite, and I only need 130 to win.
Wow.
So there you go.
Awesome. All right.
We've already block walked over 13,000 homes in Dallas and some of the outside counties. So we've been very active.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, it's been awesome having you on the show. I
Thank
wish
you.
The best of luck.
Thank you. And you too. I know you're running for governor. You got some competition. You got some competition that came up. Patrick Wynn. He's wanting to run for governor as well.
Well, if he's good, I'll let him be my lieutenant governor.
There you go. All right. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And everybody listening to this podcast right now, please make sure to subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook or anywhere else, make sure to hit share and like and comment and love and hug and
all of that
and angry and everything else.
Do all the emotions.
Yeah. Tag all your friends. Come on, let's make this thing go viral.
Exactly.
And taxation is theft. I'll see you guys next time.
Yes, taxation is theft.
Damn right it is.
Peace, love, liberty.
Okay,
thank you, Dan.
I told